You've been told retirement spending climbs with inflation, right? Wrong. JP Morgan studied over 280,000 households and found that retirees spend way less than expected. And the surprises don't stop there. It's your favourite Scotsman here again, and today we're diving into 3 shocking spending truths from this massive study that could completely change how you think about retirement. Alright, let's start with the first surprise. Spending doesn't just keep climbing in retirement like everyone assumes. Now, when we build retirement plans, we usually plug in a 2% increase for expenses each year. And I get asked all the time, Chris, is 2% really enough? Shouldn't we be using 3%? No is the short answer. The study found that retirees' actual spending only grows by 1.8% a year. So even our 2% is on the cautious side. And honestly, that matches what I see in our office all the time. Out of the hundreds of retirement plans that we've built, I can only think of a handful of clients who actually increase their withdrawals every single year by 2%. Most just set a comfortable monthly payment and stick with it. They'll only bump it up later if there's a real reason to do so. Now, let me put some perspective on this. If you assume spending grows at 3% every year, over a 30-year retirement, $1 of spending turns into $2.43. But in real life, with spending closer to 1.8%, that same dollar only grows to $1.70. That gap is massive. In plain English, it means you may actually need 20 to 25% less savings than some would suggest. For some of you, that could be the difference between retiring at 62 instead of grinding it out until 65. It makes sense when you think about it. You're probably not buying a new wardrobe at 85, nor are you booking 3 cruises a year in your 90s. And if you are, please drop me a comment below with your phone number because I want to know your secret. So, the big takeaway. Don't lose sleep over inflation. Retirement spending has a natural curve. It creeps up early on, then it flattens, and it eventually will tail off. So yes, spending slows down with age, but here's the problem. It doesn't slow down in a straight line. In fact, for most retirees, it's all over the place. JP Morgan found that about 60% of retirees see their spending jump or drop by at least 20% in the first few years of retirement. That's not just noise, that's a serious swing. And I see it all the time. One client retired and in year 1 decided to redo the kitchen and help a daughter with a down payment. Their withdrawals spiked and they started to panic. Chris, are we going to run out of money already? But the next year, back to normal groceries, golf fees, and the odd trip. Retirement spending doesn't move in a straight line, it's lumpy. And that's where people get tripped up. If your plan assumes steady spending, those spikes can make you feel like you're falling behind, even when you're not. You can budget all you want until the cows come home, but if you're not factoring in the one-off expenses like renos, new cars, or a big trip, then your budget is always going to look out of whack when those years roll around. So, the lesson, don't panic, plan for volatility. Keep some flexibility. Hold a bit of cash for those big one-offs, and you won't lose sleep every time the Visa bill jumps. By the way, if you want a simple framework for building your own retirement plan, I've put together a free guide. It's linked in the pinned comment below. No fluff, just a straightforward roadmap to help you make sense of all of this. Okay, back to it. So we've covered how spending isn't smooth, but here's another wee twist. Retirement itself isn't smooth either. Most people don't just start working on a Friday and ride off into the sunset on a Monday. JP Morgan found that 53% of households don't retire all at once. Some keep working part-time, some have a spouse still working, and others ease into it over a few years. And I see that all the time in practice. Clients tell me they're retired, but what they really mean is they've gone down to 3 days a week. Or maybe they've retired, but their spouse is still working, so they're not fully drawing on their portfolio yet. Another point to make is that these partially retired households actually tend to spend more than those who retire fully, both before and after retirement. And they often carry more debt, which makes planning even more important. JP Morgan also found that most fully retired households start drawing income around 60 to 64. But if they're only partially retired, more than half delay until 65 to 69. In other words, people don't just flip a switch. Income sources start and stop at different times. And that's the point. Most retirement plans are built on the idea of a clean break. One day the paycheck stops and the next day the withdrawals begin. But in reality, retirement usually comes in stages. So, the lesson here, retirement is not a clean break. It's messy, it's phased, and that's totally normal. Plan for that reality and you won't be caught off guard. So, those are the 3 big surprises from JP Morgan's study. Spending slows down, it's lumpy, and retirement itself is messy. The good news, if you plan for these realities, you could need less savings than you think, you'll stress less about the bumps, and you might retire a few years earlier if you're lucky. And if you want to know why most retirees go broke, you are going to want to watch this next video I have lined up for you.